All right, everyone. So Call of Duty has faced backlash over their use of generative AI in their games. A Black Ops 7 dev spoke out on their use of it. So we're going to react to the statements that were made. So we're reading from IGN. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 dev responds to generative AI backlash, not replace, but streamline. In February 2025, Activision finally admitted to using generative AI for some Call of Duty Black Ops 6 assets. Now, ahead of the release of Black Ops 7, Treyarch Associate Creative Director Miles Leslie has clarified the Call of Duty developer's position. We live in a world now where there are AI tools. Leslie told IGN ahead of Black Ops 7 reveal at Opening Night Live 2025. I think our official statement we said last year around Black Ops 6 is that everything that goes into the game is touched by the team 100%. We have a generative AI tools to help us, but none of that goes in game. And then you're going to say, yeah, but it has. I'll say it has by accident, in that has never was never the intention. We've come out and been very clear that we use these tools to help the team, but they do not replace any of the fantastic team members we have that are doing the final touches in building that content to put in the game. So everything you play, human created and touched, AI tools in the world we live in, it's how do we streamline it? That's really the goal, not replace, but streamline. Call of Duty has suffered a number of generative AI controversies in recent years, including the now infamous six fingered zombie Santa bundle. It remains in Black Ops 6, so given Leslie's prior answer, why it hasn't in other suspected generative AI image been removed from the game. Yeah, good question. He responded, not my department, but I know that the team is actively looking at the stuff, making sure that it is not shipped and how we fix it. Okay. So this is interesting. And AI is one of those things, especially in gaming, that to me is such a not only controversial topic, but a fine line. It's one of these topics where you could really see some of the arguments on both sides, although I see most of the argument on the kind of anti-generative AI side. But I do understand, okay, we have these tools out there in the world that can be used by the people here to go ahead and make this stuff, right? And if you could do that, you could produce things quicker. You could eliminate some of the crunch, maybe that goes. I mean, you hear the stories of these, game developers who are just these people working on the games that have to put in these long, hard hours to fix something. Maybe AI can make their life easier. I have no problem with that. The problem here, I do think the dev Leslie here makes Miles Leslie makes a good point of not replace but streamline. That should be the motto. Now, if that's actually what these companies are doing, that's a whole other thing, right? Because we haven't seen it. But my main issue comes in is less about the AI usage and more of, okay, if we're using AI and our goal is to replace but not replace but streamline, you know, where are the benefits of AI going? Because part of the problem I feel, and we're going to see this more and more, and I think this is going to be a really debated topic, is if let's say a developer makes all of these things with AI. So maybe it took them X amount to make a skin of time before, and now it's like cut in half or even lower than that, right? It's something that's now easily able to create. Are consumers seeing the benefit of that? Meaning, if you could make a skin quicker, right, and in effect, it costs less money to make. It's easier to make. You could produce more content from the game. Are we seeing that these things are given away for free? Are we seeing that these things are being a less price than they would have previously? To this point, not really. And that's part of my problem is that if we're going to be using these AI tools, and I do think there's a way you could use AI tools to help you make really good stuff, right? I think AI, if you just spit out something with AI, it's not going to come out that great. Okay. If you actually utilize the tool and have a human kind of workshopping it with AI and then fixing little parts, I think that could be a really great thing. But we're just not seeing the benefit from that yet. Meaning, what's happening is you're having things that are generated with AI and the games aren't getting cheaper. The bundles are just as expensive, if not more expensive. All of this stuff is still costing a lot of money, despite the fact that AI is helping streamline and make things easier. So that's kind of my problem is if you're going to get this kind of cost saving mechanism, right? And it allows you to put all of this stuff out into a game easier, how come we're not getting to see it? How come we're not seeing the benefits of it? That really should be the point. Is if you can now use this AI to make things quicker, to make games cheaper, then that cost or the savings should be passed on to the consumer in some way. Even if it's a half to the consumer, half to the company. Fine. It should be passed on to the consumer in some way. And I just don't think we've seen that yet. You mean I don't see this major impact on the industry. The only major impact we're seeing on the industry is people getting fired and people losing their jobs, and that's it, right? There's not really this major impact where it's like, man, games have become a little bit cheaper to make because of the use of AI, and maybe AI is just not there yet to where it's really having this meaningful impact. But is that going to be something down the line? Like, let's take a Fortnite battle pass or the Call of Duty kind of battle pass thing. If, let's say, in Call of Duty's case, since we're talking about Call of Duty, if they're able to use AI to cut down the time, in half that it took to generate that, is there going to be a decrease in the cost of that stuff? Is there going to be more free stuff coming to the game and not paid? Because now you can make things cheaper. I just don't see the plan for AI to actually benefit the people playing the game, right? I see where it's benefiting the employers, right, and the big companies, but I don't see the benefit on the actual consumer. And I could see how AI could benefit an employee making the game unless it's being used to replace, right? Meaning, if this is true, not replace but streamline, and you're just making the life of the employer a lot or the employee easier, no problem with it. I like that, right? As long as they're putting in the work to produce the same product we are getting pre AI, at least, right now we're not replacing, we're streamlining, and they're making it easier on themselves. I love that, right? It reduces burnout and all of these things that really hurt the gaming industry. With that being said, if the only person that benefits because they're firing all of these people due to AI replacement, right? And the consumer's not seeing a cheaper cost, then what's really the argument here, but from any perspective but the big company? And that's kind of my problem. Is that AI in itself, like I said, even on this channel and some of the other channels I have, we use AI in terms of for thumbnails and all this stuff just because, it just makes life easier, right? And some people may like it, some people may not, but it just makes life easier. But it'd be the equivalent of me using AI, right, to do like an entire video and just pumping it out and just being like, yeah, that's all we're going to use it for, And so you guys are getting a worse product, and maybe people are still watching, but I'm making more money for it, and I'm not giving any of that back. Like, if I'm going to use AI, it should be to take the content from where it was and uplift it, right? To make it better, not to do the reverse. And I think you see it in a lot of cases, they don't do that, right? Where AI actually makes it worse and it just helps the bottom line, but it doesn't help the consumer. It's not cheaper, it's not better, it's none of that. And then in the employee case, they're fired, right? They don't have a job. So we'll see what happens here. I thought it was interesting that Call of Duty dev really, I thought, from at least reading this, took it head on, right? And kind of mentioned what their goal is. But the other part of this is that, okay, we have on the record now what they're saying about AI. Then they should be held to this, right? If it's not to replace but to streamline, then that should be the goal moving forward. And that should be what we see. And if we see something different, then the company should be called out for that because they're publicly saying it's not to replace but to streamline. And at some point here, the consumer should see some benefit. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.